I could not sleep, having not done what every instinct told me I should have done right then and there. So I packed all of my things because I knew one way or another the situation would be resolved the following day. These were the words spoken by convicted murderer Jonathan Watson, who was serving a 50-year-to-life sentence at Corcoran State Prison. On the morning of January 15th, 2020, after having warned a counselor that he needed to be transferred immediately before he became violent, Jonathan Watson would attack two fellow inmates, each convicted of crimes against children, with a cane he had taken from another inmate. Both inmates had their heads caved in, and each were pronounced dead within 3 days after the attack.
Action News update. Last week, we reported on a convicted child molester killed by another inmate at the Corcoran State Prison. Well, tonight we learned a second inmate has died. Investigators say 62-year-old Graham DeLewis Conti was attacked along with another inmate, David Bobb, on January 16th. Both were convicted child molesters and suffered multiple head injuries. Correction officers say the attacker, 41-year-old Jonathan Watson, is serving life for first-degree murder. The latest deaths he's accused of are being treated as homicides.
An inmate at Corcoran State Prison has confessed to the murders of two other inmates last month. 41-year-old Jonathan Watson confessed in a letter that he clubbed both men to death with a cane on January 16th. He wrote that his reasons for the attack were because those two inmates he killed were child molesters. 48-year-old prisoner David Bobb died that day. 62-year-old Graham DeLewis Conti died 3 days later. Both men were serving life sentences for aggravated sexual assault on a child under the age of 14. Watson claims he had altercations with the men in prison and had told a prison counselor prior to the incident that he might become violent. He says that counselor ignored him. 2 hours later, he attacked those two inmates. Watson is serving a life sentence for a 2009 murder conviction.
What's going on, you guys? Welcome back. Another episode of Green Lit Gang TV. Much love, much appreciation, and thank you guys so much for checking out the channel today. It means a lot that you are here. Really quick, before we jump into it, let's do the intros. If you are new to the channel, welcome. Thank you for taking the time to watch the video. And if you do like it, go back, check out some other videos, check out some other content, and let me know what you think. If you are a regular viewer, member, subscriber to this channel, then the growth that we have experienced in 2025, simply put, is all because of you guys. I'm truly humbled by it. I know I say it every video, and I genuinely mean it. Every day I wake up, check the numbers, check the viewership, check the subs, whatever you want to call it, all the analytics. I'm truly blown away by it. And again, it's because of the continued support and the love that I get. I love having the conversations. I don't even mind being called out. I like being told information I may not have known or information that I got wrong. I love all of it, guys. So again, thank you so much. Lastly, if you like what you see, if you like what you hear, hit the like button, hit the comment button, engage in some conversation, and smash the subscribe button. Now let's go. All right, guys. So today's story, we go back to right as COVID was about to really rock the United States. This is January of 2020. This is a story on Jonathan Watson and basically his ride, his journey that he took to get to prison, and then the murders that he committed while behind bars. Mixed feelings, to say the least. Not mixed feelings in the two guys that he killed. Pretty clear cut. They had crimes against children. A lot would say they deserved what they got. But when I went a little deeper and read the story on how Jonathan Watson got to prison and who he killed a very beloved individual, former member of the military, and it was basically a drug-related crime that went completely left, and it left people dead, and it left lives completely ruined. But we're going to start with an article talking about the murders that he committed behind bars, and we're going to go back and we're going to cover kind of more in depth about the face of this crime, Jonathan Watson, because when you look it up on its surface, you just see his mugshot, you just see, okay, this is the guy that killed these two individuals with crimes against children. But you don't really go very deep into, okay, what brought Jonathan Watson to this point in time. This is an article from January 22nd, 2020. A second convicted child predator has died after he was beaten with a walking cane by another inmate last week at a Central California prison, officials said Wednesday. Remember, this took place at Corcoran State Prison. Graham DeLewis Conti, 62 years old, was pronounced dead on Sunday at a hospital 3 days after authorities said he was attacked at California Substance Abuse Treatment Facility and State Prison in the city of Corcoran. Corrections officials said in a statement. They said Jonathan Watson, 41 years old, used the cane to beat the heads of both inmates, David Bobb and Graham DeLewis Conti. and David Bobb died en route to the hospital after his attack. Both attacks happened same day within minutes of each other. Both victims were serving life prison sentences for aggravated SA crimes of children under the age of 14. Watson has served 10 years of a life sentence for first-degree murder and discharging a firearm, causing great bodily injury or death. The California Department of Corrections and Rehabilitation is investigating the motive for the attack, said spokeswoman Terry Hardy. A newspaper chain went into a little more depth on this, says a California prison inmate had confessed in a letter that he beat 2 child predators to death with a cane while behind bars after his urgent warning to a counselor that he might become violent were ignored. The Bay Area News Group in Northern California reported Thursday that convicted murderer Jonathan Watson wrote in the letter that he attacked David Bobb and Graham De Luis Conti on January 16th at the state prison in Corcoran. After the beatings, Watson says he found a guard and confessed. A little bit of a discrepancy there on the date. I always understood it was January 20th, but regardless, this is when it happened, okay? So, he kills De Conti, and he kills David Bobb. Graham De Luis Conti and David Bobb. Now, we're going to go into the background, and people would say, okay, we're not losing any sleep over that. Good job. Good on you, Jonathan Watson. You took care of 2 people that probably deserved to be taken care of. No one would argue with that at all. But going into Jonathan Watson's background information, again, he killed a person of the military, armed services, and he did it in a pretty violent fashion. So we're going to read his background information from an article I found, and it just goes into some really, really good detail on the events that took place, and this is back in 2008. Jonathan Henry Watson murdered Garrett Benson in Cutton, California. While Watson was serving his sentence, he beat 2 fellow inmates with his cane. That was not his cane. He took a cane from a fellow inmate. One inmate had been serving a sentence for sex trafficking, while the second inmate had been serving a sentence for crimes against children as well. The death of Garrett Benson, this goes into more detail. Garrett Ryan Benson, 27, was a UPS driver. He had also been a member of the National Guard for 9 years. He obtained the rank of sergeant and served in the Persian Gulf. On the night of December 3rd, 2008, Benson and his girlfriend, Rachel Wold, were at Benson's home when they heard a knock on the front door. When Benson answered the door, 2 armed men who wore masks met him. They forced their way into Benson's home. A struggle ensued as Benson attempted to stop the home invasion. He was shot 3 times during the attack. The 2 masked men ran from the home. Benson was transported to a local hospital and passed away a few hours later as a result of his injuries. When police and emergency services arrived, they discovered Benson had been growing marijuana and had a large amount prepared for sale. Investigators determined that the 2 men had presumably been attempting to rob Benson of his marijuana supply. The murder suspects are caught. On December 11th, 2008, investigators from Humboldt County Sheriff's Office, along with the assistance of the Redding Police Department and the Shasta County Sheriff's Office, arrested Jonathan Watson in Cottonwood, California. They charged him with first-degree murder, false imprisonment, burglary, and robbery of an inhabited dwelling. The following day, on December 12, 2008, police arrested Jason Leon Bellis, 31 years old, at his residence in Redding, California. He was also charged with first-degree murder, conspiracy, and robbery of an inhabited dwelling. Bells accepted a plea deal. So basically, Jason Leon Bells agrees to flip and testify against Jonathan Watson. He agrees to a plea deal, and a judge sentenced him. He only got 7 years and 8 months for his part in the crimes against Benton. So he brutally shoots this guy in his home, and because he agrees to testify against Jonathan Watson, for whatever reason, maybe they thought Jonathan Watson was the ringleader of all this, the one who came up with the idea. But getting 7 years for murder is absolutely crazy. The judge explained during his sentence reflected him not entering Benson's home or interacting with the victims. Okay, so this says he didn't go into the home. I don't know. It says that 2 people came in, 2 people were at the door when he answered. So I don't, that doesn't make much sense to me. He would also serve a 3-year parole term and pay a $1,400 restitution fine. A judge sentenced Jonathan Watson 50 years to life. Now we go into the deaths, once again, of David Bobb and Graham De Luis Conti. But again, I like to read this all from the article because it really puts into picture this entire crime as a whole and Jonathan Watson's entire journey to this day where he kills these 2 individuals. Watson was transferred to the California Substance Abuse Treatment Facility and State Prison in Corcoran, California. At the time of his transfer, his living arrangements also changed from a single-cell environment to a dormitory setting. Watson had also filed grievances with the prison regarding his security classification being moved from level 3 to level 2. So remember, now he's going to be intermingled with people with these sorts of crimes, with these sorts of convictions. It's not going to sit well with him. And this is what California has been doing. They're putting people that are gang members, whatever, that they know if they interact them with people with crimes against children, they're going to force their hand. They're going to murder people. 1 week after being transferred, Watson had been in the common area watching television with other inmates. One particular inmate, David Bod, switched the television channel to PBS Kids. This was a problem. Oh my God, that would piss you off. A few inmates, due to the fact that Bob had the crimes and the convictions that he had from San Diego County in 2005. The inmates later stated that they felt like Bob was taunting them by turning on that television program. Yeah, David Bob absolutely got what he had coming. Watson would later state, quote, "I could not sleep, having not done what every instinct told me I should have done right then and there. So I packed all my things because I knew one way or another the situation would be resolved the following day." Following morning, January 15th, 2020, Watson sought a prison counselor. He told the counselor that he needed to be transferred back to level 3, alluding to the fact that he might hurt another inmate if he was not moved. The counselor scoffed and denied his request. This is that California model we're talking about. 2 hours later, at approximately 2:30 p.m., Watson encountered the same inmate, David Bob, 48 years old, from the previous day, and once again, the inmate was watching PBS Kids. Several other inmates had also noticed the program choice. One of the inmates stated, quote, "Is this guy really going to watch this right in front of us?" Watson then replied, "I got this," before picking up an unnamed inmate's cane and delivering repeated blows to Bob's head in addition to stomping on his head. Now, get this, how he came across Conti. Graham Dewey Luis Conti was just in the wrong place at the wrong time. No guards appeared. Watson went to find one to report what he had done. While trying to locate a guard, he just happens to encounter Graham De Luis Conti, 62, who was convicted of sex trafficking. He then beats De Luis Conti with the same cane that he had used on Bob. Watson left the second inmate and finally found a guard, and he calmly reported his actions. Bob and De Luis Conti were transported by ambulance to the prison's medical facility. At approximately 4 p.m., David Bob died while en route. Graham De Luis Conti died 3 days later as a result of his injuries. I have no problem with that whatsoever. But you go up to when he killed Garrett Ryan Benson, served in the Persian Gulf, National Guard for 9 years. That's where some of the mixed feelings. And I put up pictures, guys, because when I go on, and I hate to kind of say it, kind of sad, but when I go on a lot of victims, like obituaries, when you go on certain websites, families can start these legacy websites where people that know or loved the individual can leave pictures or leave like a comment, write something. To be honest, a lot of times I don't see much posted for that individual for whatever reason. That was not the case for Garrett Ryan Benson. There were over 50 posts by people that have served with him, friends of his family, friends of him that grew up with him. He was a beloved individual. And yeah, hey, you're growing marijuana? You're selling drugs, you're in that life, that stuff happens. Even with pot. I think sometimes people think pot is like a harmless drug, but back in 2008, it was still illegal. Back in 2008, it was still heavily on the black market. And these things happen. People know people know you're cropping out. People know you got a bunch of money right there. They're going to come see you about it. But let me know your feelings on that. Obviously, we know all of our feelings on the 2 people he killed in prison. They deserved it. They had it coming. They were the worst of the worst. They deserved everything they got and then some. But I want to know what you think about the case of Garrett Ryan Benson. I thought it was really interesting. And I think I covered something that not a lot of people did, because every article I found about Jonathan Watson, it touched on his crime, but it didn't go into much depth. Anyway, there you guys have it. Much love, much appreciation. Until next time, you already know what it is. Peace.